It's a double feature. Today we are talking about the next two movies in phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I chose these for a double feature thinking I wouldn't have much to say, and maybe I do, but I'm going to do my best. All right, so we're kicking it off with Doctor Strange. This was a movie that I had seen, but I watched it at home and didn't pay any attention. So this time I really paid attention and I was surprised by it. Do I always say that? But I mean it. So basically, what am I thinking? So I think of this movie almost as almost the opposite of Winter Soldier. It's like as gritty and raw as Winter Soldier was. This is like the most CGI I think that we've seen in one of these movies so far. I mean, don't quote me on that, but that's how it feels at least. It's so CGI heavy, and obviously it has to be to illustrate the abilities of the people that Doctor Strange is with. Do they have a name? Sorry if they do. But, the Ancient One and everything, like all the time bending that they're doing, you need special effects. There was no way to get around it. I do think maybe I got special effect overkill after a while, but the visuals were really so beautiful. I think the first initial vision that Doctor Strange is given when he initially understands everything that the Ancient One is telling him, that whole segment, that was really breathtaking. I think I'm honestly gonna finish this and go YouTube that scene and watch it again, because that was really, really cool. I really loved Tilda Swinton's character, the Ancient One, right? It's so funny because you would expect that character to be a certain way, and I feel like she kind of subverted that, the way that she was kind of very normal and stuff. Like, that was just a really interesting take and a cool twist that I liked. I don't know if this movie is culturally insensitive. That's not for me to decide. I know there was some stuff where I was like, ugh, really? But overall, I mean, I love the whole concept of what is real, and this introduction of the multiverse. It's really fascinating, and I know it's going to come back. Obviously, I watched WandaVision and we saw a little bit of it there, and we obviously know that there's another Doctor Strange movie coming up in a year or so. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I think I am really excited to see him return. Also, as far as the villain goes in this movie, Mads Mikkelsen is an incredible performer. He is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars, in Rogue One, so I'm always happy to see him whenever he's in a movie, and I think he did a really cool job. He's just so, the way that he's a villain, quote unquote, is really fun. I thought Rachel McAdams was super underutilized, but I guess that's just the nature of it. Doctor Strange is definitely super unlikable, but I think I kind of liked that because it was different. Do you know what I mean? Usually the hero, quote unquote, you're supposed to really fall for them, but it was hard to fall for this guy. It was hard to get on his side, but I think that ended up being kind of interesting in the end. So that was kind of fun. I also put on the bottom of the second page that I really liked the Stan Lee cameo in this movie, because he's reading the book The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, which I have a feeling was probably somewhat of an inspiration for the Doctor Strange comics, or that type of thinking, and I love that Stan Lee's reading it and he's like, what a bunch of crap, or whatever he says. I don't know, that was just a really cool take, a little thing to hide in there. I thought that was really fun. I love the cape. The cape is a really, really cool effect. I thought that was super fun. And just all of the kind of jumps in time, or the doors to different places and all that stuff, very cool. I also love Chiwetel Ejiofor. It was great to see him, as always. I thought he did that character really well. I think the post-credit scene with him and Benjamin Bratt's character a little bit went over my head. I have to maybe dig into that again. I don't know if this is a movie that I would revisit, but I am really excited to see the character again. And maybe it is something that I'll revisit a little later, obviously closer to when the next film comes out and stuff like that. What else? I was going to say one more thing. I don't remember. But yeah, so there was a lot of really cool touches to this movie. It was definitely better than I remembered it being. I really liked the ending, like, twist thing. Oh, and also that there's a post-credit scene with Thor, and I know that that leads into Ragnarok, and I'm very excited to revisit that film. So here is the collage art page I made for this movie. I loved the quote, "What is real?" This picture, I think, of Stephen Strange is, like, so good. And I used the cathedrals because I thought they would effectively show, like, the bending of reality. So that was Doctor Strange. And now we're moving on to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And I'm really interested to talk about this because here's the thing, okay? So you know what I went into this having seen and not seen, right? And, like, just generally how I felt about everything in roughly. So I had seen both Guardians 1 and 2, and in the theater I really, really liked number 1, and I didn't really like this one. It just didn't connect with me as much. What's so strange to me is that, like, on the rewatch during this, I didn't really connect with number 1, and this movie just, like, blew me away. I don't know if this movie is just really good on the rewatch or if I don't know, it just hit me really hard. Like, it's so funny because I distinctly remember being like, oh, it was okay, but it wasn't as good as the first one. But this time around, I was like, I like this one so much more. Like, I'm really excited to watch this again. I don't know. It was really surprising because I remember feeling that way about it in theaters. But I went nuts for this movie watching it this time around. I don't know. I really I think I love the Yondu storyline, and you'll see that he is not pictured in the 2 pages I'm working on now. That is because the collage art is of him, so stay tuned for that. But, like, I cried during the Ravager's funeral for him at the end, like, tears. And I was shocked. And I think, like, I really like Nebula being more in the mix. I really like getting more of her story, and, like, that pain is like, oh my gosh, that story is so traumatic and so dark, but it was, like, so amazing to hear it, you know? And so I really loved that. I loved Drax and Mantis. It was all that comedy, like, totally worked on me. I think Mantis is super cute and fun, and yeah, so that was really cool. I will say I don't know if Rocket's storyline, like, hit me in the right way. I know what they were going for, you know what I mean? But I don't know if it, like, totally connected with me. I feel like maybe it didn't, like, start out, like, it didn't lead into it strong enough. So I was like, like, it didn't connect. But the growth of that character is super interesting to watch. I think he's just he's really, like, an interesting guy, and it's so funny that he's just, like, totally CGI, obviously, and like, I don't know, it's just such a cool touch, and, like, his character is very, like, you want to root for him so bad, but he just makes it so hard. So what else? As far as, like, everything with Peter Quill and his dad, Ego, you know, so I don't know. I don't have really strong feelings for Peter Quill. I think he's, like, fine. He's not as electric of a hero, not that, like, as he could be. I don't know. Maybe I thought he was more so my first time around, but now that I've met all these guys, like Tony and Steve, Captain America, and, like, you know, all these other heroes, and I've seen them fully in action, it's like when I compare Peter Quill to them, I'm like, yeah. Like, I prefer, if I'm going to have, like, a quirky, goofy hero, I would go for Ant-Man before I would go for Peter Quill. That's just me personally. But I did think that the story of him and his father was, like, really well done. I will say also, like, the de-aging technology that they used on Kurt Russell in the opening scene really holds up. Like, that is some impressive stuff. Like, if you didn't know who Kurt Russell was, like, you might not even know. Like, it was really very well done. And this movie is, like, almost 4 years old now, you know, and special effects move so fast, but it was pretty impressive. So, yeah, so, like, I did really find that interesting, like, the way that he didn't know who his father was, and then it turns out that his father is this, like, god, and he has to kind of reconcile with being half of a god, and then also the whole thing that in order to save his friends, he will have to sacrifice that part of himself. It's very like, gives me like Arwen and Aragorn vibes, if you will. You know, like sacrifice your immortality in order to be with the ones you love. I'm very into that. That's a really cool story beat that I really liked. But what else? I think another thing that I didn't love about this movie is I feel like in this one, Gamora was more used to serve Peter and Nebula's storylines. I think that maybe there wasn't really any other way to do it this time around, but I didn't like that, like, there wasn't as much focus on her, just because I think she's really cool. So that was like kind of frustrating, but she's still really, really cool. Obviously, like I said, I loved Yondu in this movie, like kind of coming full circle. The whistling arrow remains one of my favorite weapons in like all of film. So cool. Very, very into that. And all the stuff with the Ravagers, like on the ship, and with, what was his name? The guy with the funny name, the taser face. That was pretty funny. Yeah, that was all fun, and I think that connected with me more this time around. That I really enjoyed that, and I put Sean Gunn on the bottom right because I thought he was really, really good and fun to watch in this film, and I love that he does the mocap for Rocket. He does the motion capture performance. Just a cool little tidbit that I really liked. I also, obviously, I'm a huge sucker for Baby Groot. Like, I get it. I know they're trying to like get me with the cuteness, and it totally works. Oh, speaking of that, I think that the opening segment of this movie, like, you could have rolled the credit. You could have done those opening credits and then rolled the end credits. I think that opening segment is so genius. Just like following Baby Groot around while he's like dancing and doing everything at the same time as they're in this big fight. Like, oh my God, that's just really, really well done. It's just a very, very well done bit, that part. So there were like, oh, also all the golden people, they're not called the golden people. I know that, but, they were interesting. I thought that their like tech, it's so funny. 'Cause like, you know, they're remote controlling those ships from like further away. And it was like pretty nerdy somehow. And yet when like, Shuri and Black Panther does the remote, controlling of the car, it's like the coolest thing ever. So I don't know. The gold people were kind of lame, but they were all right. They were fine. I know there was like a bit in the post credits with them that I didn't totally understand. I think I'll have to rewatch that. And then my other favorite thing was the end credits for this movie, where the credits were rolling and you could just see like all the different little characters like dancing and stuff. And then at one point they do show Jeff Goldblum's Ragnarok character, which was like, what? I'm so excited to get to that movie. It is one that I've seen. We're in a stretch now of Marvel films that I have seen. Most of them only once, though, so I am really excited to revisit them with full context. But, so that was a really cool touch. What else? Sylvester Stallone, like, really fit in like a glove there, didn't he? Jeez. He was perfect. I really liked that planet where Sylvester Stallone's character first finds Yondu, that like snowy kind of like gambler's planet or whatever. That was very Star Wars. So I was like, I want to know more about that place. That was cool. But yeah, I think that was pretty much everything from this movie that I wanted to talk about. The effects were really great. The imagery was all really beautiful, especially like on Ego's planet, you know, like inside the core and all that. That was really cool. It was just cool. And the other thing is like, I don't know, because I haven't seen Infinity War, I haven't seen Endgame, and I don't know everything about them, but I feel like the Guardians might possibly appear in one of those movies, and I feel like that would be so weird to see these guys with like the Captain Americas and everything. I don't know. That's interesting. So anyway, here is the Yondu art page I did. The picture of him is actually, I think it was a concept makeup photo. So yeah, and I loved that quote, of course. So here's a full flip through of everything we made today with all the writing intact. So if you want to pause, you can read my full thoughts. It's just another 2 movies that revisiting them really, really changed how I saw them. which is so fun. And I'm really excited to be already like almost halfway done with phase 3. It's crazy. I'm trying to kind of speed up a little because I want to be caught up in time for Loki, but that's a different story. So that's the Doctor Strange pages, and here's the final Guardians page. And I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I'm excited to move forward. Next up is Spider-Man, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to watch Homecoming, but we might watch a little bit more than just Homecoming. You follow me? So I'll see you next week for that, and thanks for watching. Bye.